The lights on Horizon's spire were never fully dark. They dimmed, softened, and slid into a muted blue during night cycle, but they never allowed true darkness. Too many things here required constant awareness: fuel cells, solar collectors, pressure regulators, and the thousands of small failures that waited for a tired engineer to blink. Ethan Cole blinked often. He wasn't supposed to sleep in his workshop, but exhaustion had won a silent war against rationality. A half-assembled micro-drone rested on his chest. A wrench dangled from his hand. There was a soldering iron somewhere under his pillow. He'd collapsed across his bunk, fully exposed to the room, blanket kicked onto the floor, tools scattered around him like metallic confetti. If a health inspector walked in, he'd be court-martialed. If his captain walked in, he'd be lectured. If another human walked in, they'd just laugh. But it wasn't a human. Not tonight. The pressure seals at the entrance hissed, and the doors slid open without warning. A silhouette entered with silent steps, her movements closer to drifting than walking. Her skin glowed faintly, hues of mother-of-pearl that shifted with every thought. Lyriel. Lyran emissary. Scientist. Diplomat. And currently the worst possible visitor to stumble into a human's private sleeping space. Her species didn't knock. The concept made no sense to them. A door, to a Lyran, simply meant environmental containment, not privacy. Inside Ethan's quarters, her skin brightened, betraying a spike of curiosity. To a Lyran, emotion wasn't expressed through facial shifts or tone, but through light. Ethan's room looked like a hurricane had been given caffeine and a grudge. Tools everywhere. Blueprints taped to walls. Dismantled drones piled in bins. Lyriel studied it with the same interest a scholar reserves for ancient ruins. Her voice was soft, melodic, each word precise. Human efficiency appears chaotic. She moved deeper into the room, not walking, floating on delicate, controlled balance. Her eyes tracked every piece of machinery, every wire bundle, every unfinished design. She recorded it all with the faint glow of her neurofilaments. And then she saw him. Ethan lay sprawled across the bunk, shirt tossed to the floor hours ago, the blanket nowhere near him. His tools, some large, some small, were strewn next to his exposed body like precious metal relics. Lyriel froze. Her bioluminescence spiked, white with confusion, then violet with inquiry. In Lyran culture, tools were covered, polished, honored. To leave them uncovered, especially while sleeping near them, was unthinkable. She leaned closer. Her voice was a whisper of pure scientific confusion. Earthling, you sleep without covering your tools. Ethan snored. His head slipped off the pillow, landing with a dull thud on a rolled blueprint. She stepped closer, examining one of the wrenches resting dangerously near his torso. Is this a nesting ritual? A claim of ownership? Ethan stirred. Lyriel's glow brightened. She reached toward the blanket on the floor, trying to understand why he had removed what humans used for protection. Earthlings are fascinating. Ethan's eyes snapped open. He saw a glowing alien face inches from his. He screamed. Lyriel jolted back, nearly knocking over a bin of drone parts. Her light flared in a sudden burst of startled silver. Do not be alarmed. Do not be, he sputtered. You're glowing in my face. You were emitting irregular breathing patterns, she replied calmly. That's called sleeping. Ethan yanked the blanket up so fast he nearly catapulted himself off the bunk. Lyriel tilted her head. Then why did you remove the protective fabric? It's I. Ethan rubbed both hands over his face. Because humans get warm when we sleep. Lyriel blinked. A shift of pale blue rippled along her arms, scientific interest. So you willingly expose your body to environmental danger, to reduce temperature. That's one way to put it. She pointed toward the wrench lying next to him. And your tools? Why leave them uncovered? Ethan groaned. They're not. I fell asleep working. Lyriel's lights blinked rapidly, a sign of deep analysis. In Lyran culture, tools are sacred. They are always stored with reverence. Protected. Polished. He glanced around at the chaos. Well, this is what human reverence looks like. She stepped closer, eyes fixed not on him, but on the scattered equipment. Your method prioritizes accessibility over order. A fascinating strategy. Inefficient, yet emotionally expressive. Ethan frowned. Emotionally expressive? They're tools. You chose to sleep near them. She softened, her lights shifting into a gentle lavender. That indicates attachment. He sputtered. I am not attached. They're just part of the job. Lyriel studied him quietly, the way a scientist observes a rare meteor. This workspace reflects your internal state. He opened his mouth to argue, and stopped. Because she wasn't mocking him. She was seeing him. Not the mess. Not the chaos. Him. The blanket slipped a little lower. Ethan yanked it up again. Lyriel's colors flickered, curiosity. Do humans feel shame when observed? It's called privacy, he muttered. You don't just walk into someone's room. I did not walk, she corrected. I entered efficiently. That's not the point. Lyriel considered this. Her glow dimmed into subdued lavender. Then I apologize. In Lyran space, privacy applies only to intellectual property, not physical form. Humans are the exact opposite, Ethan said. Bodies are private. Thoughts are shared. Ah, she replied, processing. We protect thought. You protect form. He nodded. And you definitely don't sneak into someone's room to study them. She blinked her slow, thoughtful blink. Noted. I will request permission next time. There won't be a next. Ethan stopped. He saw the sincerity in her expression, and his irritation crumpled. Lyriel wasn't rude. She wasn't invasive. She was curious. He sighed. Look, nobody's mad. Just ask first. She inclined her head in the closest thing Lyrans had to a bow. Understood. Consent before observation. Ethan blinked. Right. Lyriel shifted her focus back to the mess of tools. A pulse of soft silver raced along her forearms. You repair machines alone? Without assistance? Yeah. That is rare, she said. Among my people, repairs are communal. Ethan didn't know what to say to that. Lyriel drifted toward the doorway. Before leaving, she paused. Ethan Cole. She spoke his name carefully, precisely. Your workspace may be chaotic, but your dedication shapes it. That is admirable. And with that, she stepped into the corridor, the door sliding shut behind her. The blue night cycle lights returned, leaving Ethan alone again with his tools and his heartbeat pounding against his ribs. He dropped back onto the bunk and stared at the ceiling. She thinks I sleep with my tools on purpose. He buried his face in the pillow and groaned. The next morning, Horizon Spire buzzed with controlled intensity. Day cycle lighting warmed the halls into a soft gold, reflecting from the polished panels, but Ethan felt like he was walking through an interrogation spotlight. He couldn't shake the memory of Lyriel's face hovering inches above his, her expression intent, curious, unblinking. He entered the communal tech bay, the heart of the station. Consoles hummed. Holographic screens displayed scrolling repair diagnostics. The air smelled of coolant, ozone, and fresh weld. And there she was. Lyriel stood near the main power regulator, her body casting subtle shifting light onto the metal floor. Engineers navigated around her with a respectful wide berth. Nobody wanted to accidentally brush against a glowing alien emissary. When she saw Ethan, her bioluminescent patterns changed to pale lavender, the Lyran color of apology. Ethan Cole, she said gently. I have come to correct my error. Every engineer within earshot turned their head. Ethan, clutching a diagnostic slate, nearly dropped it. You, want to correct something? Lyriel approached him, fluid and precise, her voice stripped of yesterday's curiosity. I entered your quarters without consent. Humans value personal boundaries. I crossed one. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, we do. Kind of a big deal to us. I wish to understand how to avoid causing discomfort in the future. People stopped working just to watch. Ethan leaned closer, lowering his tone. Maybe don't say discomfort in front of everyone. Her glow shifted, analysis blue. Embarrassment is a private emotional state. Exactly, he whispered. Lyriel blinked once, processing. Then I apologize privately. Ethan nodded. Apology accepted. We're good. Lyriel stepped back. Conversation ended cleanly. But instead of leaving, she gestured toward his workstation. I observed your microdrone schematics. The flight stabilization pattern was unusual. Ethan blinked. You looked at my design file? You labeled it Prototype 12. I accessed all 12. He nearly choked. You opened my personal projects without asking. Lyriel paused. Her skin dimmed, regret purple. I examined what was visible. Lyrans do not consider unencrypted data private. You shouldn't access people's files unless they allow it. She considered this carefully. Then humans protect ideas, the way we protect emotions. Right, Ethan said. Exactly. Her posture shifted, subtle, thoughtful. Teach me the difference. Ethan hesitated, then tapped the edge of his repair station. All right. Lesson 1. Humans have two types of space. Physical and mental. He held out a hand in demonstration. Physical space. Don't enter without permission. Lyriel nodded. Mental or emotional space. He continued. Don't enter without consent either. Don't read someone's feelings unless they offer them. Lyriel lowered her head slightly. You believe thoughts should be freely shared, but bodies should be hidden. And your people believe bodies are free, but thoughts need protection. Lyran light rippled along her arms in slow, contemplative waves. We guard the internal. You guard the external. Ethan smiled faintly. Now you're getting it. Later that day, he sat at his workbench calibrating an ion filter. Heat radiated off the components, bathing his face in warm amber. Lyriel watched, standing perfectly still. She moved only her eyes, never her hands, never touching anything without explicit purpose. Finally she spoke. Why do you build alone? He didn't look up. Maintenance job. Comes with the role. That is not what I asked? Ethan's fingers paused over the circuit board. She stepped closer, carefully this time, stopping a full meter away. You could request assistance. That would increase efficiency. He set the tool down. Machines don't get frustrated with me. People do. Her lights softened into a muted violet. You assume people would judge your process. People always do. Lyriel studied him with unusual quiet. I do not judge. Ethan forced a laugh that held little humor. You walked in on me naked and judged my tools. Incorrect, she said. I judged your storage method. He couldn't help it, he snorted. Lyriel leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice. May I ask a new question? As long as I'm not unconscious again, sure. Her eyes fixed on him. Humans attach emotional value to physical proximity. Why? He frowned. Because closeness means trust. Trust matters. Lyriel absorbed the answer, her glow shifting through subtle gradients. Among Lyrans, connection is logical. We share information and complete tasks. No emotion is required. That sounds lonely. It is efficient. But lonely? Lyriel didn't answer. For the first time since meeting her, the light patterns on her skin flickered, not with precision, but with uncertainty. He set down the tool, turned toward her. Listen. Human connection isn't efficient. It's messy. It's unpredictable. But we value it because it means something. Meaning is subjective. Yeah, Ethan said. That's the point. Her light bristled with small sparks of silver. Processing. An alert chimed. A pressure valve malfunctioned on Deck 7. Duty calls, Ethan said, grabbing a kit. Lyriel followed without hesitation. No. You don't need to come for basic repairs. I wish to observe correct boundary protocol in action. He blinked. You want to learn by watching me fix pipes? Observation is my purpose. There was no arguing that. They arrived at the malfunctioning hatch. Steam hissed out of a misaligned coupling. Ethan knelt, opened a panel, and began loosening bolts. Lyria watched every movement like a student watching a master artisan. You work gently with the tools. They respond better that way. You speak to them. Sometimes machines behave if you show them respect. Lyriel stared at him as though he'd said something profound. Your tools are extensions of your mind. They're extensions of my patience. He tightened the last bolt. The hiss stopped. The valve stabilized. Pressure restored. Lyriel murmured. You solved it alone. That's my job. She shook her head, barely perceptible. It is your identity. Ethan opened his mouth to deflect the comment, but Lyriel wasn't finished. You believe you need no one. He froze. Her glow pulsed, soft, resonant. I believe you are afraid someone might choose to stay. He stared at her. The hallway seemed smaller. The steam from the vent drifted around them like low fog. Then she did something new. Lyriel took one slow step closer, stopping a respectful distance away. Humans value closeness. I am attempting it. Ethan swallowed. That's thoughtful of you. Her glow warmed. Thoughtfulness is not difficult. Feeling is. He didn't know what to say. Before he could respond, Lyriel tapped her chest, subtle, disciplined. Ethan Cole, I request permission to remain in your personal space. That sentence carried more respect than any apology. He exhaled. You can. Lyriel stood beside him, silent, present. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel alone.